So in 1979, in the fall of 1979, I'd lost another job due to this tick that I have, which is called a complete and utter lack of respect for authority. And it's a little, and so I called my father and I said, Dad, I lost my job. And he's like, oh, nothing new there. And I said, but do you know anybody that's hiring? And he said, well, I'm working with this. My dad was involved in Western art. And so he said, I'm working with this cowboy artist by the name of Hugh Trabant. And maybe you should go talk to him. And I thought, well, does he want me to be a cowboy or an artist? And he said, no, he's the chief of the Broadmoor Fire Department. The Broadmoor Fire Department had its own fire department. And so I went up, and he's one of the most influential men I ever had in my life, but he's an odd duck. And so I went up, and he's wearing these knee-high cowboy boots and at the fire station working. And so we had about a 10-minute interview, and he's like, all right, come back day after tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. And so day after tomorrow, I come back. I got there a little before 8 o'clock in the morning, and he said, okay, so this is your first day. And I thought, man, I don't want to be a fireman. And it was kind of like I never wanted to be a fireman. I didn't have little fire trucks or a little helmet or any of that stuff when I was a kid, you know. I thought, well, but I need a job. And so I agreed, and I got hired, 19 years old. And I'm a firefighter with no clue at all on how to be a firefighter. And so keep in mind this time frame, 1979. In 1979, the first paramedics in the country, or actually I was going to have to do my EMT training. And you know, there's a lot of people who don't even realize that EMT stands for Emergency Medical Technician. And there's 4 levels of emergency medical technician. There's an EMT-B, which is a basic, an EMT-I, which is an intermediate, an EMT-A, which is advanced, and an EMT-P, which is a paramedic, or more commonly known as a paragod. And and you know, us paragods, as the normal firemen like to call us. So I needed to go do EMT training, was like the first thing that I needed to do. And I wound up on shift with Cowboy Hugh Trabant. And one privilege as the fire chief is you don't have to get up at night if you don't want to. So at 19 years old, when there were calls at night, I went by myself. And he said, you know, if you need me, call me on the radio and I'll drive the other fire truck down there. And so, you know, that was the routine with this guy. So here I am, 19 years old. I haven't been through EMT training yet. And winter storms come. And we used to call in the winter, we used to call it an Albuquerque low. And then Albuquerque got pissed off. And so now we call them a Four Corners low, because there's not enough people live in Four Corners to bitch about it. And but when these big winter storms come in like that, you know, it's a big low pressure cell, and women that are pregnant, if they're imminent, the barometric pressure drops and the baby's going to drop too. And then generally what happens is there's a boatload of snow, and so they can't get out of their house, and so they call, once again, 911. 911 came to Colorado Springs in 1976. So 911 was only 3 years old. So a lot of people weren't even educated to the system. So anyways, get the call in the middle of the night, imminent delivery. And he's like, you know, call me if you need me. And so I get on the fire truck, you know, and I drive through this blizzard, and big house in the Broadmoor, this giant home, and I got my little medical kit with me, and I go up and I open the door, and I'm like, hello, 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 hello. You know, it's like echoing through this thing. And I hear, I'm back here. And so I follow this voice, and I walk into this gigantic bathroom, and there's this pregnant lady in a clawfoot bathtub, about 6 inches of water, and her legs up over the side. I'd never seen a vagina before. And I'd sure as hell never seen a vagina with a baby trying to escape. And my first instinct was, boil the water, get the towels, please, you know, and I started losing it, you know, and I'll love this woman. It was her 5th child, and she reaches out and she grabs my hand and she starts patting. Robin, look, I'm going to need your help. You're going to have to bring it down a notch. And So she talks me through the birth of the child, right? A beautiful little baby girl gets born, and by then the ambulance had shown up. And as they were leaving, I asked her, I said, "Why were you in the tub?" She said, "Well, a warm water birth is good for children." 1979, very progressive thinker this lady was. And she said it's a hell of a lot easier to clean up. And, who can fight that logic? And so also back in 79, in the early 80s, we got to fight a lot more fire back in those days, Matt, didn't we, Bobby? There's a bunch of retired firemen in here tonight. They don't have anything else to do. But anyways, the average person didn't have a smoke detector. People did not have fire extinguishers commonly in their home. Obviously, the bane of our existence now, nobody had cell phones. And, because cell phones are like 911. I think I saw something. Was it big or small? I don't know. Anyways, we would discover fires either during the day when there was enough smoke that people in the neighborhood would call, and say, something's on fire. Or at night, it would get hot enough that the glass would break out of the house and the flames would roar out, and then they'd be like, "Hey, it's on fire," And so there were a lot more fires we got to fight, and we'd show up and there'd be the wavers and pointers, the people who were like, we're like, "Oh, like the house is on fire, stop there." But so anyways, I worked at the Broadmoor Fire Department for 6 years, and then the city of Colorado Springs annexed the Broadmoor. And I was worried. I was engaged to be married, and I was worried I was going to lose my job. And so I applied and went to work for the city of Colorado Springs in 1984 as a firefighter. And so there was a woman, very first woman in the city of Colorado Springs Fire Department in my class, Ann Petnary. God bless Annie, she's around. And every female firefighter in this city owes her a debt of gratitude. That was a tough woman. So anyways, my career progressed, and I still had the utter lack of authority, which doesn't work well in paramilitary organizations. And so I got to work in pretty much every fire station in town. I got to go. I did. And so anyways, there comes a point in your career, and I don't know what it is exactly, 10, 11, 12 years, something like that, but after I had become a paramedic, and just so you guys understand, paramedics, we're in charge of now, 72, 73 drugs that we carry, that we have to know the dosage for, and we have to know the half dosage for children, we have to know the dosage for elderly people, we have to have all that in our minds when the worst day of somebody's life is happening, and we've got to decide the right drug, the right dose, and when to give it. And we have 73 choices. And so, that's a lot of stuff. And what happened to me is at some point I experienced, and I think most firefighters, medics do, is I had burnout. I just hit the wall. I didn't care about any people. I didn't care if you were having a heart attack. It wasn't my heart attack, And I'm okay, But you really do. You hit up. But we're like societal garbage men. I mean, you can't imagine the crap that we see, and on and on and on. It never stops and never stops. And then 911 happened. And just so you get a grasp of the amount of firefighters that died that day in New York City in the towers, more firefighters died that day than the city of Colorado Springs employs. They wiped out our entire fire department in moments. And that and a divorce and heavy drinking and alcoholism led to a suicide attempt. And I just didn't want to do it anymore. And so I survived that, and I went through that process, and I came. Thank you, thank you very much. And so I came out of the other side of it, with a different perspective. One thing that I had was much more empathy and sympathy for the patients that I worked on, because I got to do all of it just like they do, and so I gained a deeper understanding of that. Now, in the early days, probably 50% of what we did was firefighting, and 50% of what we did was emergency medicine. In the modern fire service, our bread and butter is emergency medicine. It's probably more than 90% of our job now is emergency medicine. There's a paramedic on every fire truck, minimum of one paramedic on every fire truck, generally numerous paramedics. And so that's our bread and butter. We don't fight fire anymore because people have smoke detectors. and people have carbon monoxide detectors, and people have extinguisher in their house, and they have them f***ing cell phones, and the thing is they ruin our fun, because when you're a firefighter, there's nothing funner than a burning building. We get home, we do. We get back, we're like, oh, that was a good fire. Oh, dude, that was a good fire. Or like in the morning, you walk into the fire station, and it's like, oh, you bastards, you had a fire last night, didn't you? Because you can smell it, and it's just, for us, it's orgasmic. And we like our fires. We love our fires. And what happens then during your firefighting career, if you're lucky, you get what's known as a career fire. And that term that we use as a career fire is a once in a lifetime as your profession. One time in your career, you might get that fire, that magical fire. I mean, they're so cool. Like when the Cliff House burned up, man, 30 below zero, windy, cold, freezing, and you're putting water on the only thing keeping you warm, and you're thinking, this is great. It is. You dig it, you don't know. And it's like, that was cool. And the last part of my career fire that I had was the Castle West fire, which was all hands on deck for the city of Colorado Springs. Every firefighter in town was there. We had wind chills that night of 20 below zero, and we were ordered in to do a primary search on the lower level. Estimated temperature is 12 to 1,500 degrees inside of there. So you're standing outside trying to get your stuff on, and then you go in and you get your knees hit the ground, and it is so hot that it burns your knees, so you can't actually, crawl. You have to kind of do this duck walky thing that we do, because you can't touch anything. And we do the search, and it's 1,500 degrees, and you step outside, and you're sweating like a pig, and you just kind of just freeze, because all the perspiration on you now just freezes. And then you get this coat of ice on you. You can't bend your arms because there's so much ice on you. And you look at the guy next to you squirting water. You're like, is this cool or what? and it is. And that's a career fire. That entire thing burned down. 84 rescues out of that building. We only had 2 people die. Pretty good result. We won a National Life-Saving Award for doing that. So I retired finally. My friend Matt retired. Bobby's retired now. And so once I walked into the business of retiring as a firefighter, we have this tradition of having a party kind of on the way out. And since I had kind of a bit of notoriety on the Colorado Springs Fire Department, I didn't want to have a party because I didn't really think anybody show up. And I didn't want to be embarrassed. It's like, oh, great, I get to take all the cake home. Yay. Can you carry the other cake for me? So you adjust for a little while, and then what happens is the Waldo Canyon fire comes along, and I've been retired a couple of years, and I just remember standing there going, I wish I could go. And it killed me. I just wanted to go, pardon my language, but I wanted to go so bad to those fires, and I knew what those guys were doing up there, and I knew what was going on, and I wanted to be there so bad. And so after some rehab, the Black Forest fire happened, and I had to go to rehab again for firefighting rehab. But firefighters, we do a lot of stuff, and thank you guys, my fire bros that came out tonight. So that's my story of firefighting. I'm sticking to it.